With Robinhood, not only can you trade individual stocks and ETFs, you can also seamlessly buy and sell crypto at low costs. Trade all in one place. Get started now on Robinhood. Trading crypto involves significant risk. Crypto trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Crypto LLC. Robinhood Crypto is licensed to engage in virtual currency business activity by the New York State Department of Financial Services. Crypto held through Robinhood Crypto is not FDIC insured or SIPC protected. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Securities trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, a registered broker-dealer.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hey guys, this is Matt Seidel, and you're listening to Keepin' It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin' It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin' It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out in Barrio the Frost. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll review nights 12 through 15 of G1 Climax 35 and cover all this news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network and Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Chop Tea store, chop-tees.com/KI Strong Style. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style merchandise. There's free shipping on every order and 10% off your first order. chop-tees.com/KI Strong Style. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. We are streaming live right now on patreon.com/KI Strong Style for IWGP subscribers. If you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, get bonus audio, you can sign up at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. Young boy, how you doing, man?
It'd help if I hit this mute button. Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Ready to record. We're recording a little bit later than normal. It's not easy to fit everything that you need to do in a day into a 24-hour day. So
yeah, so gotta start living that Kota Ibushi lifestyle. Get the extra hour in.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not as good as Kota when it comes to that stuff. Yeah, no, I'm doing good though. Just ready to record, ready to talk about the G1. You know, it's always kind of interesting this time of the year because it's like the G1's happening. You get excited for it. Everything's going good. And some of those early nights are just so fantastic. And like, there's all this possibility and, you know, you don't know where it's all going. And then you get like towards the tail end and the guys have been working really hard. They're in smaller buildings. They've still got plenty of dates to go. And, you as a viewer too, you're feeling the, you're feeling the dredge as well. And then suddenly out of nowhere, you're here and it's over. And it's like a whirlwind. And you're like, damn, it's like just about over. Like we're about to be at the finals. And, maybe other people don't necessarily live this same exact experience we do because we've been watching every block match for so many years now. But it is an experience. It's it's a journey, and we're here. And I always get to this point where it's like, duh, of course they were gonna do X, Y, Z. It was so obvious from the beginning, but it was so not obvious from the beginning that I didn't even put in a freaking Sport of Pro Wrestling bracket because I couldn't figure the shit out. You, on the other hand, are sitting at number 1 right now, and I feel like based on the way this tournament is likely to go, it's very likely you're going to be the winner of this year's tournament, prediction contest.
Maybe, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, very, very happy to be in first place. We've had all these pick'em contests, with Chris. Even before Chris, we've done some G1 pick'ems and New Japan Cup contests in the past, and we usually never end up in the top. But so yeah, feels pretty good to, after years of doing this, to finally be on top of one of these pick'em contests. And so yeah, holding out hope here that these last few nights I can slide through and get the crown here, get first place.
Are you guys mood lighting people in your household?
Are we moonlighting, you said?
Mood lighting.
Not really,
bro. We're mood lighting people. Like, this is the first time I've thought to do this, but I brought one of the mood lights that we use from the bathroom, set the mood, relaxation. And I brought it in here. I'm like, I'm going to just fucking podcast with this. So I'm trying to find the best lighting rig to, work with this accoutrement. But I'm going to start bringing lights in here. It improves my mood, and I feel better. Yeah, we got tons of, like, we're those people when you like drive by and you see all the like colored lights from like, yeah, that's us.
Yeah, you got is that a purplish color right now?
Yeah, I got pink for Brett and for Punk and for FTR and Rick the Model. Yeah,
and
so yeah, an anvil. But yeah, no, man, I'm ready to jump into it. One thing I did want to say. So this is the second week that we have gone without a Tanahashi Ace of the Universe. It is I'm at that point where it's like I had so much like prep work done, and then I got all the way through to 2006, and it's like, fuck, I need to like keep going. But finding the time is very, very difficult. I think one of the things that I was kind of doing like on the low was using a lot of time at work to do some of that research, and things have gotten pretty hectic at work. So that's been the hard part. So it's sort of like finding the time. It's not even just finding the time to record, but it's like finding the time to like do the research and watch the matches. And then also finding a spare, hour plus to put it down. But I should have an episode of 06 out this week, hopefully. And then we'll go from there. I am still, my goal this year is still to have the entire series out before we go to the Tokyo Dome. By the way, not to get off topic, you and I, we got to buy our fucking tickets to go to Tokyo. So
yeah, I gotta get the plane tickets going. I don't know when Wrestle Kingdom tickets I'm gonna be on sale.
I forgot to mention to you, like I got my passport.
There we go.
So, yeah, my few weeks back, my family was like, I was like, I'm going to Tokyo. And they're like, oh, you got your passport? And I was like, I guess I got to get that renewed. They're like, you're not going. I was like, it's a fucking renewal. It won't take that long. They're like, this guy doesn't even have a passport. He's not going to Tokyo. Joke's on them. I got mine.
Yeah, when you do a renewal, it usually doesn't take that long. It's like when you're getting like a brand new one, that's usually when it takes long.
So looking forward to it. But any last things you want to discuss before we jump into it here?
No, I think we're good. I would say I totally agree with you on just how like the speed of the tournament and just how things went by. Because like, I plot the schedule out for the show, and it's like, you look at week one, it's like, oh man, we got like 4 or 5 weeks of G1 coverage. Like, man, it's gonna be forever. And then here we go. It's like it's already August 11th. We have this week and next week, and then it's like it's over.
Oh, and I forgot to tell you, we're having Fraser on the show to review the finals. He'll be in the buildings the last couple nights live, so I told him to come on the show.
Nice.
I also forgot to tell you, but Emily will be on the show to review Forbidden Door, because she will also be in the building, and she has agreed to come on the show. Although I will tell you, like, I'm not looking forward. This is so off topic, but I am not looking forward to Forbidden Door whatsoever. I'm sure we'll discuss it a little bit on today's show, but
yeah, I've got some stuff in the news to go over. But yeah,
I'm almost like, do we even fucking cover that show? I guess we have to, but like, fuck that show.
And speaking of Forbidden Door, I have been invited on Tunnel Talk to be part of their Forbidden Door review episode coming out. So,
oh, interesting.
So
very interesting.
So lots of fun stuff coming up here. Lots of guests jumping back and forth here on the network. But yeah, I bet you they didn't bring me on because I told them about Justin Roberts. No, I'm just playing. That was a very controversial topic. Yeah,
in Dallas.
Broke some hearts with that one.
Full some feathers.
But yeah, let's jump into it. So we're starting off from night 12. So this was Tuesday, August 5th. And this was in the Intex Osaka building number 5. So a newer building here in Osaka with an attendance of 1,142. So from the G1 action, we had Konosuke Takeshita defeating Yoshihashi, who has brought Takeshita up to 10. Then we had Ren Narita defeating Great Okan in 12-13, which brought Ren Narita up to 10. Then we had ELP, who was already mathematically eliminated going into this night. He got a very quick win over Drilla Maloney in 5 minutes and 3 seconds. And then we had the semi-main event. Actually, this was the forfeit. Shota Umino got his forfeit win over Gabe Kidd. And then the main event was Zack Sabre Jr. defeating Shingo Takagi to get to 10 points.
Yeah, we already kind of discussed this off the air that we weren't going to go like match by match this week. There's a lot to kind of cover. We're heading down the tail end. I will say this. I was listening to oh man, what was it? It was
J-Cast.
Super J-Cast. Yeah, and I'd mentioned a few weeks back that they're doing daily G1 audio behind their Patreon. And something that Joel said on their show that kind of resonated. He was like, it's much easier when you're doing the audio of just that one day to give some really like poignant insights to what happened right then and there, instead of having to try and like surmise it all a week later. You know what I mean? And I was like, man, that's a really good point. I don't think I have the time to do daily G1 audio.
Yeah, I've thought about it before because, Joe Lanza also does every year does daily G1 audio. I'm always locked into that. And Joe does a great job with that. And yeah, it's so much easier, when you can do night by night. You can focus on those 4 or 5 matches, talk about the narrative of the night. But then, when you come back for the show, it's like 5, 6 nights. It's like, oh, man.
How long is the audio of their episodes when they're doing that stuff? Because I've never listened.
Joe's is like about 30 minutes. Just kind of depends on what goes on the night. Could 30, 45 minutes.
I feel like you could knock that shit out in like 20 minutes.
I can't, man. It's just the time, dude. Like you're talking about bonus audio. It's like just finding, because sometimes depending on when the shows land, I have to wait till like the next day to watch it. Like if the show lands on a Tuesday or Thursday, like yesterday I go into the office, like I have some other evening stuff. Like it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday are like my best days and the weekends to watch shows, and then not only watching the show and then finding the time, then recording right after. So who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe one year I'll give it a try and do some daily G1 audio. But yeah, shout out to
Oh, my bad.
I was going to say shout out to Joe Lanza and Joel from JCast on their work there.
Yeah, this show, I saw a lot of people that were really high on the Takeshita Yoshihashi match. I thought it was good. I don't know if I was like over the moon about it. In fact, I thought this show in totality was just fine. The match that stuck out to me was the main event between Zack Sabre Jr. and Shingo. And I wouldn't say completely surprised, but a little surprised that they got Shingo out of there so early in this match. But I guess it does make sense that Zack being, the champion, you're trying to establish him. He goes into a big match like that against a, longtime rival, beats him, sets himself up to be, kind of the point leader in the block. So I get it. And, there is that whole point where it's like, a lot of people have complained about the parity booking in this tournament. And then at least on the side of like Zack, who is the champion, they've decided to like run with him a little bit, kind of give him that early lead. So, you can't say it's been 100% parity booked.
Yeah, which I'm glad they did that. I mean, he is the world champion. I think you want to have your world champion look strong in a tournament like this. And yeah, the main event was very good. I was a little bit let down by it. These guys have a history of great matches, especially in this city, in Osaka. But I think the thing here, one of the things, also the building and atmosphere. So, I mean, normally these guys, when they're in Osaka, they're main eventing Power Struggle or, New Beginning in Osaka, and they're in a building that's like, 5,000, 6,000. There's a lot of energy, a lot of crowd reaction to their match. And then here in this smaller building, 1,142, that same energy wasn't there for the match. And I don't know, I thought it was a little bit slower pace than maybe some of the other previous matches in the past. Still, I would still go like 4 stars on it. But, they've had 4.75 in the past. And so it just wasn't quite that level. This is one of my most anticipated matches of the tournament just because of their history, and just didn't quite hit on that level.
Yeah, I thought it was very good, but I agree with you. I think there are some shortcomings, but, honestly, Jeremy, this is just me. I haven't been totally blown away by anything in this tournament pretty much at all up to this point. Even we're going to talk about, there's a match that's coming up that I think people are like raving about. And don't get me wrong, it is very good. I just personally, I haven't seen anything that I thought was a match of the year contender the entire G1. That being said, I think that the floor, even if the ceiling isn't quite what it was during, say, like the late 2010s, floor's been pretty high. Like this is a very, very good tournament across the board. And yeah, I thought that the Zack Shingo match was about what you said, like a 4-star, a very, very good to great fitting, main event that kind of established Zack to take over the block here. The other thing too, Yoshihashi had been leading. He started to eat those losses. Ren Narita, he picks up a much needed win, and Great O'Khan is kind of like very much, he wasn't dead yet, but it's very much like him and Shingo are like, that's it.
Yeah. Yep. So overall, fine night there. Some decent matches, and some guys advanced at 10 points. Then we move to night 13, back to the A blocks with Thursday, August 7th. This was in Korakuen Hall, had an attendance of 1,509. So we had Callum Newman defeating Taichi to get to 8 points. Evil defeating Bolton Oleg to get to 10 points. Hiroshi Tanahashi defeating Sanada to get to 8 points. Then semi-main event, Yuya Uemura defeating Ryohei Oiwa to get to 10 points. And then the main event, the Rebel David Finlay defeating the Gene Blast Shota Tsuji to get to 8 points.
Yeah. A block finishing out, the tournament just about here in Korakuen. The only, B block didn't get a Korakuen night, unfortunately. I saw some people sort of, what's funny is like the A block, I think objectively did end up being better than B block overall, but this was like the signs of it. It started limping into the finish line these last few nights. And I think some of the worst shows of the tournament were A block nights down the stretch, unfortunately. Even though they had such a strong start, there was no B block nights as bad as some of these A block nights. And I was kind of shocked by that. That being said, I thought Cal Newman and Tai Chi was really good. For some reason, maybe we've sung Tai Chi's praises, but like him and Cal Newman just seem to work really well together. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's kind of funny. Who are Cal Newman's like best opponents in New Japan? And it's like, to me, it's pretty easy. It's
Tai Chi and Ishii.
Tai Chi, Ishii, and Goto.
Yeah.
You know, the dudes that all hit really hard that are Japanese domestic and, you know, grizzled nose veterans. Like, for some reason, he just shines with those guys. So I thought that was pretty good.
I was very surprised that they went with Newman winning. You know, we talked about it last week. It was like the big rematch, Cork and Hall again. Like, it felt a great spot to give Tai Chi some redemption. Also, he's not going through, so why not like give him a little bit of love, have him get the win back and beat Newman? But no, they went with Newman again.
I wasn't surprised. Like Nick Diaz said, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers. You know, Evil Oleg Boltin, we talked about the sheer importance from a point standpoint mathematically of that match. And I was just like, God, I know Evil's going to win, but I want Oleg to win so badly. And I knew he wasn't, and he didn't. And, you know, some of this Evil shit that I was like, yeah, he's working harder, blah, blah, blah. Same thing with Sonata. Those chicks came home to roost down this like tail end. Like, it just became House of Torture bullshit again.
They jumped this man from the go. You had Fale, Togo out there, pretty much 3-on-1 beat down. And then, you know, hits the Evil. It's like, all right, referee, come on in. It's like, what?
Yeah, it was embarrassing. And you kind of knew, like, we knew, you know, what's the funny thing though, is like, Evil debuts this new finisher at the very beginning of the tour. And who did he beat with that? Was it Tsuji?
Yeah, I think, yeah, he got Tsuji with it, yeah.
And it was like, damn, he's got a new finisher. He's gonna be a formidable guy, you know, even though he's still gonna be cheating everything, you're gonna see him like finishing people with this. I don't think he ever used it again, maybe one other time.
Yeah, I think he used it like 2 or 3, like the first few nights he used it and then went right back.
Everything is evil.
Yeah, evil. Yeah.
Really weird. So whatever. But yeah, so then once he beat Oleg Boltin, it was like, fuck, like last week we did the scenario tracker, and all the good scenarios involved Oleg Boltin having to beat Evil, and all the bad ones resulted from, you know, so this is the darkest timeline that we're living in right now because of this match.
Yeah, but I mean, we kind of call it last week. We're like, yeah, they're going to have Evil win.
Yeah. Then, you know, I thought that the Tanahashi Sonata match was pretty clever in what they did here, but Tanahashi's clearly like, he's done. Like we talked about like how is he still doing what he's doing, and like after that Tsuji match, it was like, all right, that's it. I don't have anything left to give, and so much so that like he went up for a high fly flow and he completely bailed, and I thought he might have got actually hurt. Good on Sonata to have enough foresight to see what was happening to try and push the referee into the ropes to try and make a save of the situation, because Tanahashi did not fall because that ref hit the ropes. Tanahashi was going down.
Yeah.
And I've never seen that happen to him, and it's the first time ever, and it was like, fuck, that's so, like, that is one of the saddest things I've ever seen from him.
Yeah, those knees are definitely cooked, and yeah, he was probably like, after that Tsuji match, I'll give you a good 3 minutes, Sonata. Oh, man.
But he did pick up the win here, you know, which kept the hopes for Tanahashi alive, but those knees are dead, so...
Yeah, and with this also, win, he got to 101 wins, which when I saw it right now, it makes a ton of sense now. 1 in 100.
Oh my goodness! Yeah. And you know, with Sonata, I'm, you know, some people are like, "Oh, Josh is coming around." I'm like, I like the gimmick, but bro, these matches suck. Now the Yuya Uemura Ryohei Oiwa match was very, very, very good. And like it's probably one of the best matches of the entire tournament, and it was really great to see 2 young guys go out there and produce something like this together. kind of reminds me of that young guy block when Sonata was champion a couple years ago. We got to see some of the hunger between some of those guys, but I don't know if many of those matches hit the same heights as this one. So this was really, 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 really good. And, I saw some people a bit higher on it than me. I saw people that were like really, really, really high on it. And I thought it was a great match still all the same.
Yeah, I'm like, again, 4.25 on it. Really hard hitting match. I mean, Oiwa, we've been talking about how he's just a beefy boy, big boy now. And he's been laying the strikes in. And both of these guys are very technically sound as well. So you kind of had that aspect there as well. And yeah, it was a very, very good to great semi-main event there. I think both guys are on the cusp of really breaking through. I think for Uemura, the one thing that kind of holds him back from me is the look. He kind of looks like a Flying Elvis from like the TNA days. I had that trios group, the Flying Elvises, and I think he just needs to change up the ring jacket and change up a little bit, something with his look, and he could be there. And then Oiwa's pretty much, I think I like Oiwa's look, the ring, the bomber ring jacket. I think he's kind of getting there, and he's already kind of modified the one thing we complained about, which was the grip. We talked about last week, he's starting to do more of the rebound style, more of the pull release style. So I think he's really on the cusp of breaking through here.
In Japanese professional wrestling, it's not necessarily a situation where you have to be or have a gimmick to get through or over with the audience, but you do need connection and you do need a character. And having a character and being a character doesn't necessarily mean that it's a gimmick. It's, it's a persona, it's an attitude, it's projection. And I think these guys are lacking that right now, and I think that that's something that a lot of the last few generations have kind of missed the boat on a little bit. There are, there's exceptions. I mean, obviously, like you look at someone like Despy or like Hiromu and they get it, but there's a lot of guys who haven't figured out how to put that together. And like, you look at the history of Japanese professional wrestling, it's not laden with a bunch of guys, with these elaborate costumes and elaborate, they're not the Undertaker or,
some of the most over guys wore black trunks, black boots, white wrist tape, and that was it. Yeah,
exactly. Like, how did Riki Choshu become one of the biggest stars ever just wearing white boots and, black trunks? What was it, that like Kichimuto and his orange, not Muda, but like just Muto or Shinya Hashimoto, like what was it about them? And I think that's what's missing from these guys. Like, they have fine gear, they could change the gear up, whatever. But we've seen, like, look at Sonata. He's changed the gear up a million times. It doesn't really make a difference. You need to connect with the crowd. You need to have a character. That's something that like Naito understood, something Okada understood, Tanahashi. Like, these guys have a persona about them. And Tsuji is probably the closest one that has it. And I still think that there's a missing element there as well, because even though he understands his character, I think that there's a missing crowd connection still. So that's my 2 cents about it. But yeah, I thought that this was the best Oiwa match since those Kiyomiya matches in the N1. And then the other one when he exited the company. So I thought that was really good. And this is probably Uemura's best match since last year's G1.
Yeah, I feel like, he's kind of starting to click right now, and I think his last few outings were really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, hypothetically, if things continue to come together, like, these are two guys that could be top of the card for New Japan, and, a pairing that I could see on a bigger stage one day for sure.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a rivalry in the making here. There was some magic there, and so if they kind of keep pairing these guys together and they keep ascending, I think that this could be a rivalry that helps push New Japan forward. And then main event, Finlay on the comeback trail, beating Yota Tsuji. Thought this was another really good matchup. These guys have good chemistry. We've seen that through their global title feud, and I thought they worked really hard here. There's some really great counters and reversals, and Finlay hitting that cross strike in the end there, or the into oblivion to get the win over Tsuji, and kind of seeing more of a babyface leaning Finley here, kind of post match, kind of giving some shouts to Tsuji and saying, I was a better man this time. You always pushed me though, that kind of thing. So interesting to see that kind of shift there. And so kind of like we kind of predicted and saw, we see this year after year. There's always one guy that kind of makes a big comeback trail. And we've seen a lot of Bullet Club leaders do this as well. Jay White in recent years. So they're following that same playbook here. Finley making the big comeback.
Yeah. The first few matches between these guys were good, but I wasn't in love with them. I thought that they kind of redeemed that this year in the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, the Wrestle Kingdom match. Yeah,
I think that was the best match that these two guys had up to that point. Or maybe did they have 4 matches by the time they got to the Tokyo Dome? I'm trying to remember.
They might have. Let me see if I can.
Well, the way I recall it, that's the best one. I could be missing one in there. And I feel like they've sort of hit their stride. This was another really good outing, and I think it's better than the early matches they had. But the thing that you have to be a little frustrated with is the booking here. Because if you are it's kind of funny. It feels like the fandom has broken into, at least what I've observed, there's the Uemura camp and then there's the Tsuji camp. Like people that are adamant that one of those two guys in particular needed to be in the finals, but you didn't see the Uemura people clamoring for Tsuji and Uemura or vice versa. It was sort of like one or the other, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that the booking ended up here, it's like Tsuji got beat completely clean by Finley, which is fine. We want clean victories. But the way the math works out is with the Evil win and the Tanahashi win, it became a situation, and then the Tsuji loss, it became a situation where really the only mathematical way that was realistic that Tsuji could get through required Hiroshi Tanahashi to be beaten by Evil on his final night.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's
sucks.
horrible. Yeah. You don't, as a fan, like if you're anticipating a guy like Tsuji, and for me, it's not even like, I like all these guys. So it's not like I have one that I'm more attached to than the other. And in fact, maybe someday I will, but right now I just don't have that connection with anyone in particular. But, the thing for Tsuji is like, he's been to the finals before. He's had, he was the white belt champion, or is he? No. Is he still?
No, he lost to the Gabe Kid, remember?
Okay. That's right. He's been the white belt champion. He's been a New Japan Cup winner. Like he's had accolades. So leaving him out of a 3-man, tournament, playoff situation would seem weird at this point. And it's like, if you're anticipating that guy to get through, you don't want to be rooting for Evil to make it happen.
Yeah.
That sucks. That's such strange, weird, backwards booking. And one of the things that I looked at from like Gato in this tournament, and I was like, that's so uninspired and kind of fucking terrible. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, this man Gato, he's been quiet quitting for 5 years now, and this whole Evil stuff, I just don't get it. Like, I know in the past people talk about, they get good crowd reactions, they get good heat, they sell merchandise, but I don't know. Like, we look at this G1 tour. I mean, we're going to talk about some attendance numbers from the first half of the year, which are actually decent. But when you look at this G1 tour, like the attendances have not been great on this tour. And it's like, this House of Torture stuff is not drawing. They did the big angle at Dominion to get all these guys add to the group and push these guys. And it's like, all right, they did that big angle and that big setup and this big push. And like, the houses are not filling up. Like, nobody's like dying to see these guys. So it's like, why are we going? Why do we keep going with Evil and going with this push? And there's no results from it. It's like, you have all these young guys that are killing it, that are hungry, that just need some good creative and a good push. And go with these guys. It's like, yeah, Yota Tsuji is a guy, like you mentioned, who's had all these accolades. Why aren't we making him push stronger? Like, I feel like it shouldn't be this thing where it hinges on Evil for him to get through. Like, Tsuji can almost be in like Zack's spot in the A block and be the guy where it's like, damn, yeah, he's for sure going through. he was a finalist last year. He killed it. Yeah, he's going to be, the A1 this year. Just get through.
Yeah, some of the losses, I think like the loss to Tanahashi in particular was really bewildering. Because when you look at Tsuji's G1, it's like he lost to Finley, he lost to Evil, he lost to Tanahashi. I think it's just those three. Maybe there's another one, but it's like those are all big losses, Mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like that sucks.
Yeah.
So it's just really weird booking.
And then beating Tanahashi in his last G1 match like that.
Well, we haven't got there yet.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But yeah, so that was night 13. Oh, so as far as Finley and Tsuji, they've had 5 singles matches in their careers, including this year's G1 match.
Okay, so I was right. They had 4. The 4th match was the Tokyo Dome match.
Yeah. And
that all took place in a year, those 4 matches, didn't it?
Yeah, well, 3 of them were in 2024, and the 4th one was this year, 2025, in Tokyo Dome.
Yeah. So that's a lot. It's a lot of matches in 1 year. So yeah, I felt like those early matches I didn't love, but I felt like the last 3 have been pretty good.
Yeah, they've progressively, if you look at the ratings on Cage Match, well, the first one was 6.96, and then went to 7.71, then 8.11, then 8.42. So they've progressively gotten better every time.
Okay, that's how I recall it. So good to know.
So then let's move on here to night 14, Friday, August 8th. This was in the Yokohama Budokan. This was the second to last B block night before the playoff. So we had an attendance of 2,448. And compared to last year, they're down. Last year was 2,906, but still in a close range there. We had El Phantasmo defeating Yoshihashi to get to 6 points. Then we had Great Okan getting his forfeit for Gabe Kidd. Zack Sabre Jr. defeating Drill Maloney to get to 12 points, taking the top spot in the block. We had Shingo Takagi defeating Ren Narita. A big win there for Shingo to keep him alive, getting to 8 points. And then the main event was Shota Umino defeating Konosuke Takeshita to get to 10 points and stay alive.
This was a fine night, I guess. I feel like ELP and Yoshihashi always tend to work pretty well together. I remember a match. When did you get married? 2 years ago?
3 years ago now.
Yeah, so I remember the G1 from 3 years ago. I was really blown away by the match they had. Surprisingly, this wasn't as good as that, but I think they're good opponents. They got good chemistry there. So, ELP, you kind of called it last week. Like they pulled the he's out early, but they're going to start giving him some wins to kind of redeem his point total going down the stretch. So, Yoshihashi, again, early front, they're the total opposite of each other. He's the front runner and start dropping everything down the stretch. So, Zack and Drilla was very, very good. I was kind of anticipating Drilla beating Zack just because of how dominant he was and everything like that. I sort of thought Drilla would be a good potential even challenger or just like the guy that can beat Zack and have that feather in his cap, but who doesn't even necessarily even need an immediate title shot, but they could cash in on it later. So it didn't work out that way. Little surprising there. Shingo, I was so glad Shingo beat Ren Narita. So
yeah,
doing the Lord's work. And then, Jeremy, maybe I'm a hater here, but I just didn't love Shota Umino and Konosuke Takeshita.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like 3.5 on it. I thought that it was just very kind of slow and plodding for the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I felt like Joe Lanza described it very well. This match was what a lot of people say New Japan matches are, where nothing happens for like the first half and then they pick it up towards the end. And also that's not the true case about most matches, but this was the case in this match. Like, it felt like very slow, very plodding, and it's very weird. Takeshita does this sometimes when he has control of the match. His offense, like, he kind of goes into this weird, like, I'm going to grab a hold and kind of a slow things down kind of offense, and just kind of throws out the dynamic stuff. And so I felt like he had a big control period in the match, and then Umino had to kind of fight from underneath. And I also don't think Umino's great in a role like that all the time. And yeah, then at the very end is when they picked it up. There was a bunch of the bam, 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 quick sequences, quick reversals, leading to Umino hitting the second chapter. And the last like 5 minutes were a lot of fun, but getting to that closing stretch took a while.
Yeah, the close was strong, but everything before that in the middle I didn't love. And I saw people like really praising this match, and I felt like it's one of those like tricks where it's like, if you close out a show or you close out a match really strong, you leave people on a really high note, good impression, but you forget what happened prior to that, and it's not always the best.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my thoughts there. I was also a little surprised Umino beat Takeshita, but once he beat him, I was like, okay, Umino's definitely going through, and he sort of needed that tiebreaker situation to make the math work. Yeah. And from a kayfabe perspective, that's a really big win for him to kind of defeat a guy that is looked upon as like, the favorite, yada, yada. So kind of a redemptive win there. One last thing, you mentioned Takeshita and his heat segments maybe being, not the most inspired. I do wonder, like, I'm not the biggest DDT person, but I always felt like Takeshita was primarily a babyface most of his career. Maybe like working heel is kind of a new endeavor for him. I could be wrong on that, but it's always been my recollection that he had worked primarily as a babyface for the majority of his career up until recently.
Yeah, we need some DT experts to make sure we're right on that. But it does feel like even like
no, we don't. We don't need anybody to check me. I'm right. That's what happened.
Yeah, even like his beginning AEW run, which was really, really great, was at the babyface, and then the turn came, and I feel like his heel turn has been kind of hit or miss. Also, he has had some great matches, but sometimes I think every once in a while he has that match where the heat segment is just weird and he just doesn't do anything cool. He's super dynamic and does all these awesome moves, and then sometimes he'll just slap on like a nerve hold or a sleeper hold or grind a guy down. And I get it, he's a bigger guy than some of these guys, but man, I'm like,
call him Skinny Yokozuna.
I'm like, I mean, where the cool moves at?
my dog Kokina. Listen, I'm gonna go grab some food for my dog. I will trust you with the show. I will be back in a moment.
Alrighty, so gonna move on to night 15. This was Sunday, August 10th in the G Messi Gunma Arena. This was the final A block night. So show opened up. We had Boltin Oleg defeating Taichi to end his G1 with 10 points in 12 minutes and 14 seconds. Then we had Sonata defeating Rei Oiwa in 10 minutes and 26 seconds to get to 8 points and kind of kill Oiwa's chance to advance there. Then we had Yota Tsuji defeating Callum Newman to get to 10 points in 11 minutes and 17 seconds. So Tsuji staying alive there, and with that win, eliminating Boltin Oleg. And then the semi-main event, which we alluded to earlier, was Evil defeating Hiroshi Tanahashi to get to 12 points and lock up the first place spot in the A block. Then the main event was the Rebel David Finlay defeating Yuya Uemura to get to 10 points in 23 minutes and 1 second. Final A block night here with everything getting locked up here. So we have Evil coming in A1, Dave Finlay A2, and Yota Tsuji A3. So pretty much like we called it last week with those top three guys advancing. And I know a lot of people really not happy with a lot of the results here, especially the main event with Finlay and Uemura. A lot of people really wanted Yuya Uemura to go through to the playoffs. And I mean, I get it. I think that, you know, in a company that should be focusing on building domestic top stars, here's a guy that had a really, really good G1 and could be a guy that could potentially be, you know, a future star for this company, getting eliminated by Dave Finlay, who, I mean, I think Finlay has, you know, done a lot of great work that we've talked about and has gone to a really good spot. But it's like, man, we're going to put in Finlay and Evil. You know, I know Finlay is more babyface leaning nowadays, but it's like, man, with two, you know, kind of more heel guys going through and just Tsuji going through, it's a little rough. And so I feel for the Yuya fans out there. I would have liked to see Yuya go through, but it all came down to, you know, how do we get Tsuji in there in the top three? And Tsuji's best chances were with Evil winning and Dave Finlay winning, which kind of sucks. And then we talked about Tanahashi's last G1 match, losing to Evil. And I don't know, and maybe Tanahashi just wanted to quote unquote give back to Evil. I don't know, because he is losing to a lot of the guys that, you know, he's beaten within the past year. And, you know, he did beat Evil at Wrestle Kingdom, and I guess, you know, this was him, you know, putting Evil over, giving Evil the last big win here. And, you know, Evil promised to wrestle clean for the whole match, and for, you know, the first chunk of the match, they're wrestling clean and exchanging headlocks and having a fine wrestling match. And then you have Dick Togo and Don Fale coming out, and, you know, then the shenanigans happen, throwing the powder, Tanahashi's face, everything is Evil gets to win. Tanahashi's out, and I don't know, just a bad taste in your mouth to watch the Ace last G1 match go out like that, and Evil to lock up first place like that.
Yeah, are you going match by match at this point, or are you just kind of recapping? Where are you?
So I talked about Finlay and Yuya and how people were disappointed that Yuya didn't win there and that Finlay got through, and I'm like, it's kind of weird that you have you went with Finlay and Evil, and I know Finlay is more face leaning, but it's still like two heelish, Bullet Club-ish guys going through.
I agree. I think that's really strange. I do get it. At the end of the day, these are two of your quote unquote top guys right now, but part of the way that you make new top guys is you have them beat the guys that are on top right now. And we can all kind of agree, for better or for worse, that, you know, Evil and Finlay are somewhat transitional guys to the next generation. You know, as popular as they may be, and as much as certain sects of the fan might like them, they serve a purpose and a role, but they're not going to be the guys that draw, you know, Tokyo Dome crowds and carry this company to the next, you know, iteration. So for that reason, you do want to give them respect. You do want to book them well, give them pushes, but I don't know that both of them needed to get to the playoff situation. It does seem a little bit overkill, you know?
Yeah.
And it really did disappoint people, especially like, I thought that this A block night, the final A block night, I thought it sucked.
Yeah. I mean, you had double shenanigans with Evil over Tanahashi and Sonata over Oiwa. And, you know, you beat Oiwa, a young guy who was on fire in this tournament that could have advanced. You beat Tanahashi in his last G1 with shenanigans. And then, Yota Tsuji versus Callum Newman. That was fine. It kind of had a weird finish. I don't know what. It just kind of came out of nowhere. Tsuji hit the 17 crosses, which he never really wins with.
Yeah, I was like, that's a finish? Like, I was so confused by that. I guess I didn't even know that move had a name, or I don't even remember seeing him use that move.
Yeah, he's used it every once in a while, and the name comes from like the rugby team or whatever, something like that. And Yeah, he's used it every once in a while, and so yeah, it seemed like I thought maybe Newman got hurt or something, because yeah, just kind of like Tsuji was in control, and then he just kind of picked him up, hit 17 crosses, and that was it. So I don't know, that was weird.
I used to do this thing where like when I would be in wrestling school and I didn't want to keep wrestling, I would just not kick out. Matt would be like, "You're supposed to kick out of that," and I'm like, "Eh," and I just roll out of the ring.
Oh man!
So maybe that's what happened.
Yeah, Colin was. You know what? I'm
not going over it anyways.
Right, I'm not advancing. Whatever, just pin me.
I saw a lot of people like the Oleg Boltin Taichi match. I thought it was fine. Considering those two guys, I thought they could have had something better. And I was, it was pretty emotional at the end too, because they were like talking about how maybe this is Taichi's final match in the G1. I'm like, fuck, and it was 6 points. This guy's never had a winning record ever. Like, that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the match. I think they probably had a better match previously, but I thought it was a pretty good matchup. And yeah, I thought Bolton looked really impressive. And man, he's just been killing people with that F5 and the kamikaze. And so yeah, I thought this was a really, really good tournament for Bolton. I think he's improved a lot. And he might not have had match of the year level matches, but his matches were always fun and entertaining. You always kind of want to watch his matchups. And so he's really developing well.
You want to know one thing though? I'm not in love with the kamikaze.
Yeah, I would prefer him go with the F5.
I like the F5 as a finish better. One thing I don't like about the kamikaze is he'll often get guys into highly vulnerable positions and then transition them into the kamikaze. So it's like he'll pop them up for a power bomb. And I'm like, the shit you could do from this position is so much more, destructive.
Yeah.
And then he's like, get on my shoulders. Like, why, bro? I don't think it's a terrible move. And I'm not even saying like it's a finished product. Like we've seen a lot of guys where it's like they have their introductory finisher, and then as time goes on, they graduate to like whatever their real definitive one. And he's still young in his career, so I get the feeling that this might not be the all said and done, ultimate destroyer finisher, but I don't know. I'm almost like, I'm ready for it to be over. Cause I don't love that finish. It's basically just the, you can't escape part of Kenny Omega's move, but without the cool part attached to it.
Right.
I mean, it is cool. It's him like spiking people down, but like, I don't know. Plus I'm always afraid he's going to break his neck on that shit.
Yeah.
He's a big man.
Yeah. If I were him, yeah, I would just transition to just going with the F5, the verdict, and doing that as the main finish.
Maybe he should start doing shooting star presses like Brock did.
I mean, if he can do it.
But then lastly here, you've already talked about this stuff, so I guess I'll just throw in my 2 cents. I thought Evil Tanahashi really sucked, and a lot of it was due to the fact, not only was it the shenanigans, but like Tanahashi's done at this point in the tournament. Like a lot of that match was, hold on one moment. It's a lot of emotions going on in this household. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was classic mat-based ground wrestling. It wasn't just all the cheating. It was also just the slow, methodical pace of like Evil just working over Tanahashi's knee while he couldn't get up off the ground. And I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah.
I don't want to see the catch-as-catch-can stylings of Evil Watanabe over the Ace in his final G1 match, and that's what we got. And there's very little Tanahashi was still capable of doing. And we kind of knew going into the tournament, like it'd be a miracle if he finished. And he did, in fact, finish. But like seeing him lose to Evil, seeing him lose the way he did. You know what? Actually, I'll tell you this much, Jeremy. It got so egregious with the cheating and everything at the end that I was like, he might win, because they were giving him so much shit that I was like, this almost seems like too much for him to just lay down for. Like, it almost feels like he would have to overcome it. And then he just got pinned, and I was like, oh, that fucking sucked. That is so deflating.
Yeah, and like I was saying when you were off for a second, that I think maybe he just, for whatever reason, he's giving back wins people, or maybe he just wanted to give a win back to Evil for whatever reason. And I don't know, put him over. And
I get it. It's just a terrible way to do it. The match just sucked. I mean, there's a way to probably do that match and give Evil the win, and I don't know, whatever. And then it does suck. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm hearing slander about David Finlay out there. I'm not going to abide by that. I think David Finlay's had a fantastic tournament, and he's really, really good. But I am still kind of questioning, like, this night felt like a lot of guys phoning it in. There wasn't the passion and drive and hunger that you saw all throughout the tournament prior to this. And I feel like a lot of guys were banged up and tired, but also probably deflated when they like found out, like, yeah, you're not going to the playoffs sort of thing. And I thought that the David Finlay Yuya Uemura match was like okay, with a really fantastic close. Like, the close was really, really good, but everything before it was like not super inspired. And I was just like, man, this is a deflating. You don't want the A. I know that we're going to a playoffs and it is different, but like, remember back in the day, the A block and B block final nights were like some of the best nights of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
This just doesn't feel like that at all.
Yeah. And, one thing with Yuya that I don't know if I'm a big fan of is, they're calling his frog splash the high fly flow, even though
I think it's just Walker.
Yeah. Even though
it's not a high fly flow.
Bro, it's the low down version. It's not the high fly flow of the frog splash. And even, he did the high fly flow to the outside, and I think he's leaning a little bit too much into the Tanahashi stuff. He's doing the dragon suplex, he's doing the dragon screw. I don't know.
I'm fine with all that. Just if you want to call it the high fly flow, do a fucking high fly flow.
Right, do it the Tanahashi style, but he's doing the D'Lo Brown style. Call it.
He's not doing a high. He's got split legs. If you got split legs out there, that's not a high fly flow. All right, Art Bar, like, come on, dude. I agree with you. Yeah, I forgot. That was actually something I wanted to say on the show, and I forgot to. So I'm glad you brought that up. And it does suck that Uemura isn't even in the playoffs. And it is one of those situations where it's like last year, he seemed to be poised for a big push. I'm not saying he was going to go to the playoffs, but like, he seemed poised for a big push. The unfortunate accident, he's back, have this redemptive thing. You get him right to the cusp, and then he doesn't make it in. And we're not at a point where I feel like I can trust the company to follow through on these guys in a competent booking way, to where it's like, yeah, they're for sure not going to drop the ball. Like, I don't know that that's the case anymore. So it's like, you want to see them do the right thing. And it's like, all right, well,
yeah.
Okay, Uemura, I guess. I don't know. And
the thing is, like, they have 3 spots. This is not like previous years where you only have to pick one guy, and it's like, all right, fine, you pick your one guy, but 3. They had 3 choices, Josh, and they went with Evil and Finlay as 2 of those choices, which I would have given them 1. Like, you pick one of those dudes.
Yeah.
You pick Evil or Finlay, and then you do Suji and one of the other young guys.
Yeah, it's very uninspiring. And this is the kind of booking that doesn't, lead to Renaissance eras for the company. Yeah. And you can't put the whole health of the company. You can't point to just one particular thing and say, this is it. This is where it all stems from. But it's, I remember, like, the Bible says precept upon precept, line upon line. It's like little things building on each other. It's like, fuck, like, how much of this stuff do we have to endure before, there's an adjustment, a change, something fresh, something new, and something that we can believe and trust in. And it is disheartening. So.
Yeah, well, I don't think we're going to get anything new as long as Gato is still doing his quiet quitting booking and he's still in charge. Like, we need to change up the booking room. Who's ever in there now, Gato, Kikuchi, Jado, Dick Togo, like, all those dudes need to get out of there, and we need a fresh crew.
That's the thing, is, like, who knows what's actually going to happen, but, like, there's rumors, but how do I know that they're not going to Just replace him with like Dick Togo. And then it winds up being worse. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Man.
Bring Ricky Choshu back, bro. Like, I don't know.
Oh, man. We had a few questions here. Death Triangle 720 says, since we only have three shows left, who do you think has elevated themselves with their performances in the G1?
Well, I feel like we've already covered this. I'm not going to go into deep depth on it, but I feel like Drilla for sure. Oleg Boltin,
Yeah.
which I felt like he already was elevated. I felt like he's lived up to his billing at this point.
Yeah.
And I felt like Oiwa really stood out. But the only guy that I can look at and say they were at one level before and they feel definitively from a booking standpoint higher is Drilla.
Yeah. Yeah, I think his match performance and booking really took him from just like that undercard junior guy to like, all right, this guy could be a player.
There's nobody else in here, and this is no slight against anybody. Like, for instance, like Taichi had a fantastic turn, but he finished with 6. He lost to the guys he thought he was going to lose to. And as much as we want him to, and as much as I think he's the MVP of the A block, I just don't see them like going with him. I don't see him as being exponentially more valuable, even with all of the great performances. Kind of same thing with like Oiwa and Uemura. Like they had good performances. They were booked the way I thought they'd be booked. They finished about the way I thought they'd finish. Good tournaments. I don't think they were elevated.
Yeah. I think that they're kind of just where they were at. But maybe Oiwa just because he's came back more recently and it's getting more wins. But
he got some wins. So yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I don't see him definitively like he's a player, like he's been elevated, but like Drilla seems like he has been.
Yeah. Next question's here from Diego for Ian Island. Says, to me, Yuya Uemura has been the standout of this year's tournament. Do you agree? And what do you expect is next for him in the immediate aftermath of the G1?
I felt like he was really consistently very good. And depending on your tastes, I wouldn't argue with anybody who was like, he's my standout guy in the A block. For me, I still think it was Taichi.
Yeah, I would say Taichi is the A block MVP. And then from the whole tournament, I don't know if I would go with Yuya. I feel like you have to look at guys like Takeshita, like Zack, like Taichi as guys who were like the overall tournament MVP.
As far as what's next for him, God only knows. I have no clue, bro.
Yeah, did he beat Bolton? I'm forgetting now.
I think he did.
So yes, maybe he's getting a never title match.
Maybe go listen to We Work Stiff and see what they think. Maybe they've got the beat on this shit. I don't know, man. Like I really could have sworn he was probably going to wind up in the finals, and the fact that he didn't is like so. I don't know. It's mind boggling. It's like, what the fuck do you do next?
Yeah, I don't know what his. And he did get the win back over Tanahashi, so yeah, I don't know. It seems like it may be never title run, maybe, I don't know, challenge some other lower card champion until, I don't know, World Tag League or something. I don't know.
Maybe he'll win the white belt when they have to strip Gabe of it because he can't return. I don't know.
Yeah, and then just never returns at all.
That was just a rumor, or not even a rumor. That was just a joke. I don't know anything about. Don't take that as a thing because I don't know anything about Gabe's health.
Yeah. His other follow-up question says, also, Oiwa has been fantastic as well. How can they keep him heating up without overcrowding the main event scene? Do you expect a never title match against Bolton for him?
I mean, they got a lot of singles titles ready to go for some of these younger guys. You know, there's the strong title, not that I would advocate for that one, but there's also the TV title. There's also the never title and the white belt. So plenty of things for these guys to do, tag team titles, you know, really we're at that point where the G1 is over and we have to start looking towards January 4th Tokyo Dome season. And what do you do between now and November to get them prepared before World Tag League even starts? Because that's really the cutoff date is like what, Power Struggle?
Yeah.
So better figure something out. They better figure something out like now for all these guys if you want to put them in prominent positions come Dome season.
Yeah, and I know it seems like they want to kind of ride, Tanahashi's last half of the year out for the fall and winter, but after this G1, I don't know how much stock you can really put into, riding out Tanahashi and try to get him to be the big draw. And so I do think that they need to tell some compelling stories this fall to build up. Obviously, Tanahashi's last match is going to be a big thing regardless, but I think the undercard stuff needs to be built up as well. And so, yeah, they have now until, November to really drive home some compelling stories, create some rivalries. We mentioned, both these guys, Uemura and Oiwa, seem to have great chemistry and potentially could be a rivalry. Maybe you set something up for them at the Tokyo Dome. But yeah, all these guys, Yuya, Oiwa, Tsuji, Umino, these guys need to be placed in some compelling stories and big spots coming into Tokyo Dome.
And the one thing that is positive about what's going on, say what you will about any criticisms you have for the G1, and they might be valid. We are in a period finally where there's fresh blood in the company. And, I've looked back through the course of this Tanahashi Ace of the Universe project and like going back to like some of those early G1s that he was in like 03, 04, 05, there were times where we finally had young guys in their first G1s, Makabe, Tanahashi, Nakamura, Naito, stuff like that. And there's others too that I haven't listed. When we were going through that period in the 2010s where like the G1 was popping and we had lots of stars, it was mostly established Japanese stars, very few like young domestic upcoming talent. Like there was almost none,
Mm-hmm.
And so we've reset. We're at a period where they're actually starting to build these guys. It might not be, we might criticize the booking, and rightfully so. There might be issues with the trajectory and the timing and everything, but at least we're at a place where there is building blocks being put into place, because for many years there was none. It was like we used to hear like the criticism when we first started the show. It's like the guys at top stay the top forever, and that's just it. And I was like, well, it's not gonna be it forever. Like, and we're at the point where it's not anymore forever. So
yeah. Rambo and Slam Pig has some questions. He says, are there any talents who have significantly changed your perception of them based on their performance in the tour so far, either positive or negative?
Nope. I think, and say what you will, like I try to be flexible on this show. Like, I don't want to be someone who just like digs my feet in. And I feel like when individuals have either dropped off or improved, I feel like we're fair about it and we can even buy in, listen to some of the early episodes, listen to me talking about like, Yoshihashi, that's someone I came around on, but, I feel like almost everybody in the tournament, like I felt like I had them pegged pretty well, and nobody under delivered what I was expecting. No one over delivered. And there was definitely people I was impressed with, but it was the kind of impressed that like you want to see, you hope to see. And I felt like a lot of people delivered. You know what? There is one person that I feel like maybe based on their performance on the tour left me feeling a little negative, and it's really not even their fault. It's just father time. But like Shingo seems to be declining. Still a really great wrestler, but you can't count on Shingo to have the Shingo match every night like you could a couple years ago.
Yeah, it's almost kind of going to like, you can book him in like maybe a big like once a month kind of thing, but like to go 9 nights in a row, you're not. It's not the 2019 Super Juniors anymore.
Yeah.
So, but I wouldn't say that really changed me negatively, and I kind of agree with you. Like nobody really changed my perception of them. Like I always we talked about Drilla a lot, and I mean I've always liked Drilla, and I thought he was doing great work in the junior division and the tag team of Clark Connors, and he definitely broke out and had some really upped his game. But I was already positive on him, so he didn't really, maybe I'm more positive, I guess you can say, but I've always liked him.
I would say I'm higher on him after this. I felt like there were times where I was critical this year where I was like, hey, he's doing really well, but I don't know if he's having the types of matches to where you can count on him in the big spot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's going away. Like, I feel like I'm starting to feel like, yeah, this is a dependable guy who can work the house style and gets it. And, is putting it all together. So if anybody, I'd say him.
For negative, I think I'm going to say Callum Newman.
Yeah.
Just because
a little stagnant.
Yeah. He just didn't have a great tournament. And, there were some signs of life in the first half of the year. He had that big world title match with Goto, and it was like, man, like it was a great matchup. He showed a lot of fire. He showed what he can do in a spot like that. And then he didn't show really any of that in this tournament whatsoever. Like, I mean, he had very good matches, but I felt like, nothing was blow away. I don't feel like he really upped his game and had those high quality matches. So it was like, I saw what you can do. Why didn't you do it? And so, yeah, I would say I'm a little bit negative on Prince of Pace.
What about ELP?
I'm kind of neutral. I feel like for him, I mean, I enjoy ELP. I'm not an ELP hater like a lot of people are, but I feel for him, he was kind of shoehorned by booking. I feel like he got, shorter match. I mean, he was kind of in that 10-minute range match time and lost a lot. I mean, he had a few really good matches, but I feel like I don't know. They were kind of doing this whole kind of losing streak thing with him, and so his tournament just kind of felt like meh. But I mean, I'm not like negative or positive. I think he had a fine tournament for the role he was slotted in.
I don't have anything else to say.
With Robinhood, not only can you trade individual stocks and ETFs, you can also seamlessly buy and sell crypto at low costs. Trade all in one place. Get started now on Robinhood. Trading crypto involves significant risk. Crypto trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Crypto LLC. Robinhood Crypto is licensed to engage in virtual currency business activity by the New York State Department of Financial Services. Crypto held through Robinhood Crypto is not FDIC insured or SIPC protected. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Securities trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, a registered broker-dealer.
Next question.
I leave it up to you to read the silences and be ready to.
Well, I didn't know if you were going to say something after you got your water there. But
bro.
Next question. Do you believe Tai Chi's performance in the tour will lead to some kind of substantial program or role for the back part of the year?
I don't know how substantial we would say it is, but could I potentially see it leading to something minorly substantial, like a lower level title challenge or another potential IWGP tag team challenge sort of thing? Maybe, but that's about it. Like, I don't think it's going to be anything exponentially higher than where he's been in the past.
Yeah, I think they showed us that based off of the booking and where they slotted him. He's dead last in the block, and despite his great work, I don't think they're going to go with him for whatever reason. I think they're going to have him in the team with Ishii. They're still the tag champions right now, so he'll probably just keep doing that. I could see them having a good World Tag League together, him and Ishii, and then he'll probably just be in the tag title match at Wrestle Kingdom.
Or worse,
the Rambo. Yep. Next question. He says, what comes next for Oiwa? Is he probably the talent who I am most intrigued about in terms of wanting to see next steps after the performance in this G1?
I'm looking forward to what the future does hold for Oiwa, but again, I'm not at a point where hold on. Come here, bud. Yeah, so we were like dog sitting my brother-in-law's little chihuahua, and Ziggy and him, they lived together for like many years of their lives, and then they still see each other pretty regularly, but like they're not together every day. So anytime they come over, they're like all super happy for several days, and we like play and have fun and go on walks, blah blah. And then when he leaves, like Ziggy's so depressed. Like he is so depressed and dejected. And like right now he's just on the ground, like just crying, like being pathetic. It really is kind of sad.
Sad.
Yeah. But as far as like Oiwa, it's like you want to trust that there's going to be a creative direction that is interesting and that you can invest into. And what I mean by that is like look at the trajectory of someone like, say, for instance, Jay White when he joined Chaos. Like there's a character in place, there's a storyline, you can follow it, you see where it's going, it makes sense. But oftentimes these young guys, they just get slotted in as an underneath number 2 young, the young buck of a group, almost like a Randy Orton to Triple H's, leader of Evolution. But they don't get pushed like Randy Orton to the moon to where that they're going to be like the next youngest world champion and yada, yada, yada. The closest thing to that we've seen to that, again, is Tsuji under Naito. Like Tsuji was pushed pretty hard, felt like a star. But the rest of these guys haven't really felt that way. And with Oiwa under Zack, I'm not really complaining about him in TMDK because they seem to be pretty strong, but I just don't know what the motivation is, what the drive is, how they're going to utilize him. I don't have faith in this creative that they're going to take this guy to where he needs to be. And I mean, I look at Uemura and Umino as examples of them failing in those regards.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of confidence in the booking right now. I feel, and we said over and over again, these young guys need to get out of these factions where they're the second, third guy in the faction. And I feel like Oiwa at this point should maybe break out of TMDK, have his own faction. And I think there could be a compelling story to tell that of him, trying to chase Zack, and eventually you kind of create this rivalry between them where, Oiwa eventually does leave TMDK because he realizes, well, I want to be the man. I want to be where Zack is. I want to be the world champion, and I can't do that being underneath him. And so I think there could be a compelling, student mentor story there.
I think that there almost always naturally needs to be some sort of rift when guys leave. Of course, you could do it the amicable way, but that doesn't draw money. You know what I mean? Like,
right. And
it wasn't necessarily the most exciting thing in the world to see Sonata just walk away from LIJ. I don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like with Zack starting to be more heel leaning, you can maybe have, tell that story of him, being maybe more of a dickhead to guys like Oiwa in the faction and, talking down to them and being this kind of cocky world champion. I feel like there's a compelling story to tell there, but will Gato tell it? Probably not.
I also feel like they missed the opportunity many times within LIJ and probably within Chaos too, if you really think about it, to potentially feud interfactionally with guys at the top. We never really had Naito and Shingo in a program, or, within the same faction, him and Evil, within the same faction, him and Sonata, within the same faction, him and Hiromu. And by the time they started doing these things with, some of these splits, it was like the rose fell off the bloom a little bit, or the bloom fell off the rose, whatever. You think back to like Chaos, and it was like probably could have been money in Nakamura and Okada. They did 2 G1, they did the G1 final with them and that whole thing. And another block final. There's probably money there. They just never really capitalized on it. So I don't know.
Yeah. This next question. Let's see. Next question comes from Stale Burger Bun. It says Shota now has a win over the probable G1 winner Takeshita. Should we be worried about this?
I don't know. What are the chances that this dude goes to the dome again without winning the G1? That would be so preposterous.
That would suck.
I'm not too worried about it, even as much as we've complained about things. Like I'd be blown.
Yeah. Next question's here from Less Commission 7252. Why do you guys believe that management is afraid of pulling the trigger on talent and always trying to rely on long-term story booking? For example, Dave Finlay not winning the world title at Sakura Genesis and Yuya not making the playoffs this year.
There's a lot that goes into it that we are probably not privy to. I don't want to speak for the inner workings of the backstage because I'm not on the booking committee and I don't know what kinds of push and pull is going on between management, creative, the business side of things, and then also the talent. There's a lot of masters that you kind of have to serve. It's a difficult balancing act, but there is something disconnected in some of these decisions that they're making. And it's like I said earlier, it's like one thing leads to another and another and another, and it gets kind of overwhelming after a while. You're like, fuck, like where are we going?
Yeah. And like you said, we're not in the room, and I don't get, why certain decisions weren't made this year. Also, he brought up, Finlay not winning the world title, which I don't know. It kind of felt like it was built up to that. And I don't know, maybe they had the foresight to see what the Goto stuff was doing to go in that direction. And so maybe it was just, wrong place, wrong time for Finlay. And maybe had he not got hurt, the year before, maybe that would have led to his world title win.
Yeah, but I think that the Zack win is wrong person, wrong time, but it worked in his favor. Like, I don't think he should be champion right now. And I love Zack Sabre Jr. and I was a huge fan of his first title reign. And who knows, and I think he's still at a fantastic tournament right now, but it just can't, like, again, we don't have to discuss that whole thing again, but it's like, if we couldn't go with Finlay at the early part of the year, why the fuck are we going with Zack right now? Again, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Narratively, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. It just felt really weird, that whole rivalry and getting the belt back. So yeah, it's a lot of weird booking stuff that's happened this year. And again, I don't think any of that's going to get better until there's a change in the leadership there. He also asked, Jeremy, how will you bask in your glory if you win this year's Pick'ems? Well, I'm just going to brag. I won. I'll be able to have that bragging rights for a year. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here in the next few days.
I'm going to bask in it too.
Keeping It Strong Style.
We won. We fucking won. We were number one in the Pick'em. Did you not see?
Next question. Dark Solar says, Jeremy, how are you number one while I'm at the 300 range? The fix is in. I'm not bitter, am I? Sound a little bitter.
Stay bitter.
Then he says, man, who else misses Jake Lee? Right, young boy?
Fuck no. Not at all. What?
Yeah, I can't do it. Imagine if he was in this mix too, having nights with him, Evil,
Jeez.
Sonata. Oh my gosh. Then he also asks, who do you feel has improved exceptionally in the G1? Oiwa and Uemura have shown exceptional fire in this tournament, and their match represents what New Japan should be. What say you? I mean, we've kind of already touched on that.
I would agree I think that they've grown in terms of their work over the course of this tournament. That would be fair to say.
Yeah. And then he says, I think Takeshita, ZSJ, and Umino will pass. Takeshita beats Umino and Zack, and that's how Takeshita gets a world title match at the future show. I bet you at Royal Quest, because that will be the only New Japan show Tony Khan allows him to participate for the rest of the year. What do you say?
I don't think they're doing Royal Quest.
Yeah, I don't think that's on the books. Tanahashi's last match in the UK coming up for Forbidden Door. I don't think, that doesn't sound like they would have a compelling draw for Royal Quest. And if you look at, the international game plan for New Japan has been to pull back the rest of this year. So
what do you mean they don't have a draw for Royal Quest? Zack Sabre Jr. is the world champion.
Okay, but who are you going to put him in there with that's going to be compelling to draw?
Umino. They headline the Dome.
Oh, man.
Oh, geez. Okay, so let's look at these A block final standings right now. So you got Evil at the top of the block, 12 points. Dave Finlay, 10 points. Yota Tsuji, 10 points. They are your three getting through. Tsuji is A3. Finlay is A2. Evil's A1. Oleg Bolton and Yuya Uemura both finish at 10 points, but are eliminated due to tiebreakers. Oiwa sitting at 8 points, Cal Newman at 8 points, Tanahashi at 8, Sonata at 8, and Taichi's the loser of the group sitting at 6 points. I think we've done a pretty good job just overall discussing where most of these guys are, so we don't need to relitigate it. B block, Zack Sabre Jr. sitting at the top of the block, 6 wins, 2 losses. He's got 12 points. He is the only guy right now from that block with a guaranteed bid into the playoffs. Now, where he lands within those playoffs is still yet to be determined, but he is the leader right now. You got Ren Narita sitting at 10 points, Shota Umino at 10, Konosuke Takeshita at 10 points. Those are your odds-on favorites to make it through the rest of the block. Some of these other guys are eliminated mathematically, and some of them are still alive, but most of them have pretty far outside shots. So you've got Drilla, Okan, Shingo, ELP, and Yoshihashi all sitting at 8 points, and Gabe Kidd with 0 due to forfeit. So that's going to take us to our preview of this week's finals, the B block final night in Act City, Hamamatsu. Night 16, this will be in 2 days on Wednesday the 13th. And we do have the lineups as of now for the match order. So the show is going to open with Shingo Takagi versus Drilla Maloney. Those two guys have wrestled a few times recently over the course of this year, so that's a return match. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Yoshihashi. Zack is obviously, going through. Yoshihashi is not, or actually Yoshihashi could potentially still get through. I was running some simulations, but it's so unlikely. And then the semi-main event, you got Great Okan versus Shota Umino. Your main event of the evening, Konosuke Takeshita versus Ren Narita. What I was seeing, Jeremy, basically, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of other variables if you count like 1 points and draws and no contest and shit like that. But it seemed to me that Takeshita Narita, winner gets in, period. Basically.
Yeah.
And then, it's kind of up in the air between Okan, Yoshihashi, and Shota Umino. Seems pretty likely that if Umino beats Great Okan, he's in. And then Zack's in no matter what, but if he wins his match, then he becomes A1 or B1 for the block, and he, avoids the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, and then Shingo and Drilla, I think they can both get to 10, but they would probably need Umino.
They need crazy math.
Yeah.
So it's like highly unlikely that either one of them, I guess there is scenarios where they could get through, but, and I don't know, maybe you want to pull up the,
yeah, let's pull this up here. Pull up the scenario tracker over at sportofprowrestling.com.
And I'd just like to say, Jeremy, I think we were the first ones to do this on the air. So
Yeah.
Shout out to me and you. Me first and then you.
So what do you want to do here?
Well, first off, let's just go with what we think is going to happen. So I think Zack is beating Yoshihashi.
Yep, I agree.
And I think Takeshita is beating Ren Narita.
I agree.
I feel pretty confident Umino is just gonna, he needs that
Okan. Yep.
Yeah, he needs to get that victory back from the hair loss match earlier in the year. And then I don't know that it really matters between Shingo and Drilla in that specific scenario, but you can pick. You could try it with both of them.
Yeah,
Either one.
I'm gonna go with Shingo just because it's Shingo.
And he still doesn't get through.
Yeah,
because those guys are all. Yeah, Umino would be sitting at 12. Takeshita would be sitting at 12. And then same thing. If Drilla wins, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So realistically, let me look back at the math here. Bear with me. So in this block right now, you've got Narita and Takeshita going up against one another, and that one is definitive, like, period. So in order for anybody else to be alive, they need Shota Umino to lose.
Yeah. So yeah, if we had Great Okan winning, and if Shingo won, Shingo would get through.
What happens if Drilla wins?
Then Drilla gets through.
What happens if Yoshihashi were to beat Zack Sabre Jr.?
Then you would still have the winner of Drilla and Shingo getting through.
Okay. Try that again.
So actually, if Shingo won, Narita gets through. But if Drilla wins, Drilla gets through. Because Shingo lost.
In the
Narita.
event, that would be in the event Takeshita were to beat Narita.
Yes.
Let's go. Narita beats Takeshita.
Okay.
And okay, so Umino would get through over Takeshita on the tiebreaker.
So yeah,
Play around.
Who else do you want me to switch around?
Just Drilla and Shingo, I guess.
So if you have Drilla beats Shingo, Narita beats Takeshita, you have Narita, Zack, Maloney. That's your three.
I swear to God, I drew up a scenario where Yoshihashi got through it. I was so shocked by it. Have Shota Umino win over Great Okan. Okay.
So if Umino winning, Yoshihashi winning, Drilla winning, Narita winning, you would get Narita, Umino, Zack.
Okay, so the bottom line is no matter what, Narita Takeshita is definitive. One of those two guys is going through. And for anybody else to have a hope, they would have to basically be hoping that particularly Umino loses.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think Zack losing could also help some of their causes a little bit.
Yeah. Zack losing helps Drilla a lot if Drilla can beat Shingo.
But at the end of the day, I would be pretty shocked if Zack lost to Yoshihashi at this juncture of the tournament. I think he finishes number one. Umino's going to beat Great Okan. And Takeshi's going to beat Ren Narita. This one's pretty like open and shut. And then the Drilla Shingo match is kind of a toss up, but I think it probably should be Drilla. Although if Shingo wins, that puts him at 10. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going Drilla on that one just because I think Shingo's beaten him more often this year.
Yeah. I was about to pull that up because I know they wrestled. I think they wrestled a couple times this year. They might be 1-1 this year. Actually, the stats are right here. What am I doing? Here we go. Yes, they are. They're 1-1. So this would be the rubber match. So yeah, pretty much either guy could win.
Yeah, and that's why it's happening early because like either way, whichever way it goes, that guy who wins, like I'm still, the commentary is gonna be able to say like they're still alive, they're in the hunt if things fall right, and then it never does, and it's not going to, and we're going to end up with Zack number 1, Umino number 2, and Takeshita number 3.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident of that. That's what you're confident of. That's what we posted on our social media, thanks to our social media manager, Emily. And I'm pretty sure most people online agreed with us. So any other outcome would actually be pretty shocking at this point in time, which, does lead me to believe maybe they will change it up a little bit. But the way that the playoff picture shakes out in this scenario just seems also the most plausible.
Yeah, so that would take us to the tournament stage here. So that would be Thursday, August 14th, night 17 from Korakuen Hall. So we would have Yota Tsuji, who's the A3 versus the B2, which in our scenario would be Shota Umino. And then we would have Dave Finley, the A2 versus the B3, which in our scenario would be Konosuke Takeshita.
That just seems to make the most sense to me personally, because Umino and Tsuji have had issues with Evil in the past. They're both like the young generational guys. I don't think we've seen them wrestle before, but not like, it's not a match that's been done to death. And they are the top 2 pushed like young guys. So just makes a lot of sense to me that one of those 2 would go through and have to face Evil, and they both could be positioned in that babyface role. So that makes sense. And then Finley Takeshita, that's one that makes sense to me too, just because it's like Finley is almost in this quasi defender role, but Takeshita is this like juggernaut. Both guys are surging at the same time, and they both got their eye on Zack and have history with him now. So I don't know, this just screams Gato booking. Like I'd be so surprised if this isn't what happens.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty clear, I think, what's going to happen here. And then
now, I guess the real question is, number one, how are we liking this? Like, how excited, what is your excitement level for this outcome? Because this is basically what we were predicting last week as well.
Yeah.
And then number two, what do we see happening?
So on I think the right side of the bracket looks pretty fun. I think Finley Takeshita should be a very good match. And then the winner of that versus Zack is going to be very good. We've seen both of those already. So I think we're set for some good matches on the right side of the block. Left side, I think it really just depends which Shota Umino shows up, which Yota Tsuji shows up. If both those guys have their working boots on, I think they could end up having a great match. They also have potential to have a pretty bad match as well. So hopefully,
yes,
hopefully it's the latter, and they have their working boots on, and they're inspired and compelled and want to go out there and kill it. But then the winner goes against Evil, which I'm not expecting that to be good. Whoever it is,
it will be good, because the tournament finals against Evil are always good, even if they are still not work rate classics. They're filled with all the drama and, the payoff. And this is where it is a little boring, though, because they've gone to the well with this so many times, where it's like the threat of Evil making it through, and you don't want that to happen. And then one of these guys thwarts him at the end, and, the babyface gets the comeuppance, and, it's almost worth it to have gone through all the bullshit to get to that spot. But it's like, how many times do we have to live through that with Evil? And then there's also the fear that it's like one of these days Gato might just pull the trigger on him. And it's like,
yeah,
is there none of those matches? There's not a single scenario where Evil wins, and I would be excited for any of those three guys to face him.
Yeah, no, not at all.
I will also say this. I'm not opposed, David Finley, Zack Sabre Jr. as a semifinal, an all-white dude final, especially they've wrestled a few times this year already. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing Takeshita not getting through.
Especially, since we already think Takeshita's getting through. So my question to you is, like, why the fuck did Finley have to go through? I understand like he's a leader of a group and you want to push him, but like imagine how much more exciting this finals looks if Uemura and Takeshita, given the match that they had last year, is in the quarterfinals and the winner of that match gets Sabre.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many other compelling options. Yeah, Uemura, you could, or you want Takeshita, I felt like could have been a great option. I mean, Bolton Takeshita, we've seen what they've done in their rivalry the past year. That could have been an interesting quarterfinal. There's so many better options that they could have gone with. Is, yeah, what's the point of putting Finley, giving this big comeback if he's just going to lose right away anyway?
Yeah, I feel like to me, yes, those are good matches you mentioned, but the Uemura one is the one that has like the poetic ending. Like he's the guy that beat Takeshita the first time in the G1, you know, all that sort of stuff. So to me, and he's someone that has never been to this stage of the G1 before and could have really used that elevation. So it is it's disheartening. But what I think is going to happen here, and I could be wrong, but I think it's going to be Tsuji Evil, especially considering the matches that they've had with each other this year and Evil sort of having Tsuji's number.
Yeah, even in this tournament, Evil cheated to beat Tsuji, so here's a chance at redemption for Tsuji.
So I'm pretty sure Tsuji's going to be Evil. And then Takeshita lost to Zack, so I'm pretty sure Takeshita's going to beat Zack. And that's going to take us to your G1 finals. It's going to be Tsuji Takeshita, which is a really great match. And we've seen it before. We've been high on it every time. And I think both of us were kind of early on predicting that this was a high likelihood as a potential final. I think we also had the thought that maybe it wouldn't be the final if in fact it wound up being like, say, the Tokyo Dome main event.
Right. Yeah.
Which isn't to say that they couldn't. I mean, we've seen, it's rare, but we've seen, like, for instance, like Ibushi and Okada finaled and then still wrestled in the Dome afterwards.
Yeah, and with them kind of throwing out the title winner has the shot at Tokyo Dome, you could have, hypothetically, let's say Takeshita wins, you could do Takeshita Zack in the fall, you have Tsuji beat somebody in the fall, and then you do Tsuji Takeshita.
Yeah, we could come back to this match hypothetically. I'm not predicting that, but it's always on the table. And I guess that's really just to say, like, I guess we're booking ahead to kind of see where we think that this is all gonna, all head essentially. But the big question here is, like, I think a lot of, the rumblings for a long time now have been Takeshita's going to win the whole tournament. The network, TV Asahi, they're high on him. Management is very high on him. Plus, the political stuff between AEW and New Japan, and there's this push to kind of establish him as a big star, which is fine, and I'm not against that. And I think that he's a great candidate to win. I do just wonder about the logic behind Tsuji failing in the G1 2 years in a row back to back.
Yeah, not the best look for Tsuji, and you kind of get him into a Goto role of always failing. So if he loses here, I think he has to win G1 next year. Which
I don't love when guys have to continually keep going to the finals over and over and over again. Like, again, that's another Gatoism. Like, this isn't me trying to say, oh, they need to go with Tsuji over Takeshita. I'm not like lobbying for the home team. That's not what this is here at all. I'm kind of wondering, like, maybe Tsuji shouldn't have been the guy against. If you're going to set up Takeshita as the winner, maybe it shouldn't have been Tsuji in this spot, considering he lost last year. That's really my whole thing.
Yeah, you could have had him, if there was somebody else compelling in that semifinal, you could have had him lose to somebody in the semifinals and then put somebody else through to face Takeshita.
So, that's my whole thing there. I do think that the match on paper between, like, if I had to pick who in the two blocks I would like to see most in a final scenario, this is that match. So I'm anticipating that's the final we're getting, and I'm excited for it, but I'm also like, damn, Tsuji's going to lose 2 years in a row. And then if he doesn't, like, let's say Tsuji beats Takeshita, that's going to be that would be that'd be shocking.
Yeah, that'd be huge.
Maybe that could be a good thing, but I'm also, I'm still hesitant because I'm like, there's just so much juice apparently behind Takeshita. There's this other thing too that we haven't really discussed too much. It's like Takeshita is technically on the roster. He has a contract, but from a historical perspective, we would pretty much just see him as an outsider in almost every way. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Yeah.
Guy came up in DDT, spends most of his time in America working for AEW, and he moonlights in New Japan from time to time. I would say more than other people that have had contracts for sure, but he doesn't feel like he's not part of a stable. He doesn't have like deep ties to the company. Like he feels like a traditional outsider, and it's been a very long time since they've had even though he is still he's on the roster, like he signed, but for all intents and purposes, it's been a long time since they've had like a quote unquote outsider or invader go to the finals or even win the tournament.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it would be I think either way, it's going to lead to an intriguing winner. And I see the arguments are both. I think Tsuji winning, there's a story there. If Zack keeps the belt all throughout the fall, because that was the finals last year, was Tsuji failing to beat Zack. So you could set up a redemption story to where Tsuji is going to beat Zack in the Tokyo Dome and win the belt and kind of redeem losing to Zack in the finals last year. And then with Takeshita, there's, like you mentioned, there's been kind of the industry rumblings that he's set for a, multi-promotion push between AEW and New Japan. That winning the G1 is the start of that. And I think there's a lot of upside with using Takeshita. I think, we talked about it last year. Like he just felt like more of a star than a lot of the younger guys. And, he's making waves across the wrestling world. I think he's a lot of people's, wrestler of the year. And I feel like you 9 times out of 10 can count on him on having a blow-away matchup. So, I would feel pretty good with him going into the Dome as world champion. But again, that does mean Tsuji loses again, Tsuji fails again, and then you're, one loss away from starting to get him into that, Goto failure kind of role. And it's like, all right, you kind of paint Tsuji if Tsuji can't win the big one.
Yeah. I think that's good analysis. I mean, my thing is with Takeshita, it's not as difficult a sell. Like he kind of sells himself. Even if I'm not confident in like the creative and stuff, I'm confident of like the political maneuvering and influence of some of these outside forces really kind of forcing him to be in that spot and him delivering. Whereas with Tsuji, him beating Takeshita in that spot could really mean something. It could be special, but then the follow through, I don't know if I trust that they'll stick the landing. And you hope that they do. You want them to, but I don't know.
Yeah. So what are you going for your final prediction here?
I think Takeshita's beating Tsuji in the finals.
I agree too, and that's what I entered in my pick-em bracket. Yeah, I think I originally had Tsuji at first, but the more I thought about it, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just really feeling Takeshita. There's just so many factors with the politics and him just kind of already being a star. And if you really want a guaranteed great title match at the Tokyo Dome, he's a great guy to have in that spot. And I wonder what they're gonna do because he lost to Zack in the block play. He's going to beat Zack in the semifinals. Then, because to me that screams we're doing a third match in the fall, and Zack's not going to the Dome as champion.
I agree. That's what I'm thinking. And then it begs to question, who does Takeshita defend against at the Dome?
Yeah.
Oh.
So night 17, Thursday, August 14th, so that would be the Tsuji versus B2, Finley versus B3. Night 18, Saturday, August 16th, that'll be Evil versus the winner of Tsuji and B2, and then the B1 versus the winner of Finley versus B3. And then the finals are on Sunday, August 17th from Ariake Arena.
So we should probably reach out to Fraser and lock up our recording plans, because that's just a week away. So yeah. 1 week from now we will know who has won the G1 Climax, and I don't think it's going to be a foreigner. It'll be a domestic talent, but an invader all the same.
Yeah. A couple other questions here. Semi Hat says, who do you think is going to win the G1? We both think Konosuke Takeshita is going to win. Def Triangle 720 says, who do you hope gets pushed after the G1? The company has 4 months to get some strong feuds for the Dome.
Yeah, I think we've kind of covered it. I'm going to assume we probably would agree on these names. Drilla, Oleg, Oiwa, Uemura, Tsuji.
Yeah, all need to be put in some prominent spots there. Then he says, let's just say after this G1, Gato is set aside from the booking. What changes do you hope they do with the remaining time they have in 2025?
Just in this year alone, I think that they should probably bring some structure and focus to the tag team division. I would love the idea of them starting to blur the lines and kind of reduce the divide between junior and heavyweight. And I think pushing the young guys.
Yeah, and I would say just some ref integrity and match structure.
Oh, yes.
Like the how the Torture stuff is just so ridiculous and egregious. It's like you're really going to have like 10 people run out there, and then the ref is going to continue. You know what's even more ridiculous is when they come out, they do the ref bump, and then they bring out another referee. Like, why would the new ref, knowing what just happened, not just disqualify these dudes instead of going in there and continuing like nothing happened?
You have to imagine that the new ref was basically not at a monitor, not within earshot of what was happening in the match, that maybe they were playing poker in the back or eating at catering, or they were taking a shower and someone's like, you got to get the fuck out there. It's and then they rush. They still got shampoo in their hair when they're going out there in their, half wet clothes. They have no clue what happened. They just know there's a job to be done. Someone got hurt. They're rushing in to make the save. That's the only plausible thing that could be happening. But it's also like, for how many years it's almost been 5 years of House of Torture. You don't know what they do at this point. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah. And so I think they need to, get away from all the interference and, challenge these heels. You can be a heel without having 20 guys run in and powder and ref bumps. Like, there are ways to be creative and compelling and cheat without doing what they do.
I think that there are other things, obviously, that they could do to improve the product long term. But these are small things that we have named that wouldn't take much. Overnight, you could revamp the ref situation. You wouldn't even have to make an announcement. You just start doing it. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
And there doesn't need to be some sort of major shift or announcement. You just do it. Same thing, like, they don't have to come out and hold a press conference and say, we're going to start doing more open weight sort of shit. They just
do it.
Do it. Like, and the World Tag League is coming up. That's a perfect opportunity to, soft launch a revamping of the tag team division. And like I said, push the young guys. You've got from August to November to get this done. So you got 3 months, so hopefully you got some creative ready to go.
Yeah. And he also asks, of the young guy versus young guy dynamics from the G1, which one do you think has the potential to be a Wrestle Kingdom match right now?
Oiwa and
Yuya
Uemura.
Yeah. Next question here from Being Bred is Fun. Do you think a Yota Tsuji Shota Umino final is possible? If so, who do you think would win? What are the pros and cons of going all in on the new generation?
I think the math could work out to where that could happen. And if that were to happen, it's the same thing that you said earlier about that match happening in the first block of the first round instead of the third round. Just apply everything the same. The only, the only difference is it's a bigger stage and there's a lot more pressure applied.
Mm-hmm.
Could it be good? It could. Could it be disastrous and boring and flop? It could. I wouldn't trust that to be my G1 final nowadays.
Yeah, I would not go with that.
Especially considering that they'd have to go through Zack and Takeshita, and Evil. Like that's those are some big names they have to get through to wind up with that final.
Yeah. As far as pros and cons of going all in on the new generation, I mean, the pros are, you need new stars. All your stars are gone. So going with these guys, you can find and develop some new stars. The cons are some of these guys that will not work out. Shota Umino has not worked out so far. And so, when you start pushing these guys, they might not fully pan out, but you're never going to know if you don't push them. And so, yeah, it might take a while too for some of these guys to get over, but I think, yeah, that's kind of part of the game. And so, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of more pros to really pushing young guys and creating this new generation. So moving on to the next question, Let's Question 7252. Do you think someone from the B block will win? Since I'm assuming you guys are not happy with the outcome of who's in the playoff from the A block. And yeah, we think that Takeshita is winning from the B block.
I like Tsuji, and I would be fine with Tsuji winning from the A block. I don't think that right now feels like the right time to have David Finlay or Evil. Evil should never win the tournament, but it doesn't feel like the right time to have David Finlay, especially since it would be so weird to have like Zack was the second ever foreigner to win this shit. And then the next year David Finlay does it. And it's like, what? It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I would be fine with Tsuji winning, but it does feel like it'll probably be someone from the B block and it'll probably be Takeshita.
Yeah. Then Def Triangle 720 says, with so many teases of a character shifter in guys, which talent do you hope they just pull a trigger on a change now instead of waiting for the slow burn?
Who's he mainly referring to with that? Because I'm not entirely sure.
I didn't feel like there were a ton of character shifts, really. I feel like Zack was leaning more kind of a dickhead, cocky heel. Sonata was doing the whole gear change stuff. Outside of those two, the War Dog guys, Drilla and Finlay, are leaning more bayface.
I guess same thing with, like Finlay.
Yeah.
I don't know. If they're going to continue the Zack title reign, I would be totally fine with them like leaning into, instead of this undefined sort of quasi face leaning guy, I would rather them lean into classic Zack.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's going to do it for the questions around G1. So next week we'll be back to review the finals and the playoffs. And so we'll jump into the news here.
Yeah, so I was looking at this this graph that you have listed here, Jeremy. So it lists out 2025 performance comparison against the last 2 years. I'm assuming this is the total attendance and average number of attendance of shows for New Japan up through this period of the year.
Yeah, I think it's before. I don't think G1's counted in this. I think it's up until like June.
Okay, because you've got 78 shows listed. So basically, through 2023, New Japan had a total attendance of around, and I'm just going to use the round numbers here.
And this is year-to-year comparison, so it's at the same points of the year.
Yeah. So again, round numbers, we could get into the minutia of it, but about 149,000. The next year, their total attendance was 154. This year, 164. So you could see that there was, and they had actually already received like a 10% bump from 2022. Then they jumped 6.3%, and 154 to 164. That's a pretty healthy bump. That's through about 78, 77 shows through the same point of the year for the company. Again, similar numbers, average number of attendance for 2023, they were up 8.6 at about 1900 and 30. Next year, 1980-ish, so up another 6.3, and then this year, like just a little over 2100. So healthy growth, numbers up. But you said that this is prior to the G1?
Yeah, I don't think this includes any of the G1 numbers. And this graph comes from the Social Suplex newsletter. It's on the front page story, the whole story on the business of the first half of the year for New Japan.
Yeah, I will definitely have to check that out. Been very busy. There was one week where I had mentioned people going to the newsletter because, Trish gets scoops and stuff like that. And she thought I was being cheeky and like kind of like a dick, but I wasn't. I was like, I just sound this way. Like I was actually telling people to and even in Dallas, she thought I was pulling her leg. And I'm like, no, this is just how I talk.
Yeah. And so, and these numbers, it's the first 6 months of the year is what these numbers are pulled from.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Cause I was just going to go back and look, and I was like, how many events? Okay. So that's healthy. But then again, I think it'll be interesting to see what things look like through the G1. Cause there were, and a lot of people have talked about this, and I'm sure we've heard it, that, there were stars out this year, and the schedule was weird because there were certain buildings they typically run that were either being renovated or shut down. And then injuries, and these things all kind of combined. And then, not even just stars gone, but like stars that have also left the company in years past. The most notable one recently is Tetsuya Naito. So you kind of combine all these things together, and it has resulted in not the hottest numbers. I think that Goto loss was also pretty big, just considering the business that he pushed in the early part of the year, and then him not being there and then hot-shotting the title to Zack last minute. I don't think that did anybody favor. So it is going to be interesting to see what these numbers look like with the G1 sort of included, because there's no denying that those are down. But
yeah, and they do have some G1 numbers in the Asia section of the newsletter. So for the first 8 nights, it totaled 15,470, which is down from last year's 16,887. So about down 3.8%.
It'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out, and I'm sure that they will be on top of it. They're doing fantastic work over there, and that's awesome. Yep. But any other thoughts before I talk about the next part of the news here?
No, I thought it was interesting to see it be some positive growth for the first half of the year, because there's so much doom and gloom around New Japan, and it was a strong first half of the year, and also you had Goto as champion, Naito, and there's some other things that are really working well. So,
but what about the vibes?
The vibes have not been high.
I'm a vibes guy. Vibes. Forbidden Door news. So Zack Sabre Jr. will defend the IWGP World Heavyweight title at Forbidden Door, and he will be defending against the winner of this 4-way match between Hechicero, Daniel Garcia, Lee Moriarty, and Nigel McGuinness, with the gimmick being that it's like the best technical guys today that will challenge him in an all techers IWGP match in the UK. We'll talk about that in a second. A lot of reactions to that. Also, Kyle Fletcher has issued an open challenge for the TNT title, and we got some questions about that. So first, let's talk Forbidden Door, this IWGP title match. Jeremy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really thrilled by the 4-way. I mean, you would think, with it being the IWGP World title, that you would want to have some top guys competing for a chance to face the champion there. But it's very clear what they're doing here. They're gonna do Nigel versus Zack. They had a great reaction when they were in the gauntlet at All In Wembley 2 years ago. And they're going to be in UK again, so it kind of makes sense to kind of do this, dream UK technical match between Nigel and Zack, which is fine, I guess. I mean, it's a better match than like Sonata Jack Perry for the world title, but you would, when you kind of think Forbidden Door, you would want a top AEW guy that's active challenging Zack, but they're not going to put any of their top guys. If they would have to lose to Zack, and so they're not going to have anybody lose to Zack right now.
I think there's a lot of things I could say about this, but it's almost not worth the breath to get this upset. It is sad though. It's sad because New Japan and All Japan as a crossover dream show, when it was announced, was so exciting and inspiring, and now it's not.
You mean AEW?
Oh, what did I say?
All Japan.
My bad. I'm tired. Yeah, AEW and New Japan, and now it's not quite what it had been, through those first two shows. Somehow, I'll be honest with you, I think this is worse than Jack Perry coming out and just getting a title shot against Sonata for reasons. It screams lack of respect for even just the kayfabe of what the fucking title even is. Never in a million years would they have the AEW title defended on a New Japan major show, and they just slap together, four just random dudes like a Chase Owens and and Kojima and Taguchi. It wouldn't be anything like, it wouldn't be like that. Like, that's crazy. And that's not to say that these aren't talented guys. Like, I think that they thought probably that these four individuals, with how talented they each are from a technical standpoint, that there's a hook there and there's enough plausible deniability to be like, yeah, this is good. But it's like the way they're getting there is, it's last minute. It's super lazy, slapped together. And like you said, nobody here. I mean, we've seen the Hechisaro match. That one's really great, but he's definitely not going to be the guy that wins because he's booked for that fucking show already. Like, he's booked in Mexico.
Right.
So he's not going to be on Forbidden Door.
Yeah. And then Lee Moriarty, he never wins any big matches on AEW TV. Daniel Garcia really hasn't won a ton of matches since coming back to TV this year. And then you have Nigel, the commentator.
I do understand that there is this prevalent thought that it's like, from AEW fans, it's like, well, New Japan's not hot, so you guys aren't bringing your half of the card with guys that are over. So, oh well, I get that, but it is kind of a two-way street. Like, it's a partnership, so you should be promoting each other's guys as stars on each other's shows in meaningful ways to get them over in each other's territories. But, the partnership has cooled to such a point where they're really not doing that anymore. If you notice, since the start of the year, like, it's just not like that. aside from this show, I don't even know why the partnership still even really exists. The other thing about it too, though, is like, if this is what we're getting, New Japan should have just had their own title match, promote one of their own guys. Could have even been Takeshita for all I care.
Right. You could have done, if Takeshita's winning G1, like that sets it up perfectly. You just do Takeshita versus Zack.
Like AEW, it basically is just an AEW booked and ran show. We always kind of knew that, but now it really, really is. And they're not having like a New Japan guy challenge for their title. It's an all AEW main event. Might as well just done that with the New Japan title at this point, but instead we're doing this other gimmick. And like, don't get me wrong, I love Nigel McGuinness. I kind of gave them the pass for them doing the Danielson match, at
Grand Slam.
At Grand Slam. That was really cool and everything, but it also kind of didn't deliver. I mean, the match was really good, but like it didn't deliver like the ticket sales and the intrigue from, the non-diehards the way that you'd think it would. And I think they're counting on something similar happening here, that this is going to, mean something. I guess it doesn't matter because the tickets are already sold.
Well, I mean, with it being in London, I think it's then being like New York, like Nigel, Zack, the crowd's going to be insane for this match. So this is the right market to do something like this.
But from the outside looking in, there's also the fact of like, he's a commentator. It is Nigel McGuinness and he's a legendary wrestler and like, he's still very good, but he also is, there was no build up to this. It came from fucking out of nowhere.
Right. It's not like he's been actively wrestling. He's had like 1 or 2 matches last year.
If you really wanted to get here, they should have had a tournament. It could have even been a mini tournament. It didn't have to be anything major, but they could have done, these 4 guys, maybe not these 4 guys, but they could have done 4 guys in a mini tournament that led to a final that actually, because then it's not just a 4-way, it's actually something that is building on TV. You don't have to devote a lot of time to it, but at least something. The other thing I will say, and I'll leave it at this, it should have been a bigger name. It doesn't need to be the biggest name in the company. It doesn't need to be a tip-top guy, but it needs to be somebody who is popular, is well-known, has a winning record, and they're not involved in any major feuds. They're not involved in any major stories, and they're Teflon, and they can eat the loss and be totally fine the next day. And it has a little bit of prestige to it. And I have the perfect name. I don't know if they're still active. I know we saw them in Wembley. So I think that there was something about health wise. Maybe it wouldn't work out, but it should just be Samoa Joe.
Yeah, they did write Samoa Joe off in Texas.
So he might not be healthy.
Yeah, because he hasn't been on TV since then.
Okay, but someone like him, someone who is like really well known, very popular. Maybe, with Joe, he's never challenged for this title and the fans would love it and he would lose and it would be totally fine and it wouldn't hurt their business and it wouldn't hurt it wouldn't hurt anything. They could also do Shibata. Obviously there's a lot of political stuff there, but that's a match that people would just go gaga over, and it's Shibata and he is used on TV. He wins, someone of that ilk.
Claudio could have been another good option.
We've seen him and Claudio at Forbidden Door before. That's the only reason I would say no to that, but yeah, someone like that could have potentially been used here. I'm sure if you go up and down that roster, there's plenty of names that you can find that are more credible than what they're doing here.
Yeah.
And then this is the last thing I'll say is like, I don't know if we weren't covering this show if it wasn't, if we didn't do Keepin It Strong Style, I don't know that I would watch this show because it's got very little New Japan involvement. The involvement is going to be minuscule. It's not going to mean anything. And it's just not exciting from a New Japan fan perspective. I'm sure the AEW fans are fine with it all because it's like, it's their product. It's their company. They're getting some good matches at the top, but it just kind of sucks. It's not like the concept of what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it's just the name of the show now. Like, there's no meaning behind it anymore.
Remember? Yeah, that's how I felt when I was a kid and they did the first In Your House. And I remember, I don't know if it was true, but I remember like the first In Your House, the people actually won a house. I was like, that's fucking cool. Win a house from the WWF. But then they kept doing In Your Houses and people weren't winning houses. And I was like, you've lost the concept. I want a house. Give me a house, bro.
Yeah. Or it's kind of like, Survivor Series where they don't do Survivor Series matches anymore. It's like,
yeah,
you kind of like, it's not really Survivor Series. It's just the name of a show you're doing matches on. So, yeah, I mean, and the thing is, for Forbidden Door, it's still a very popular branded show. The tickets always sell really well. The pay-per-view buy rates always do really well. So, I mean, it's going to be a successful show. But, yeah, the heart of what it was and what made it all exciting is gone. And like you mentioned, part of that is, yeah, we don't have any really top stars, but also it's like, why not use this platform to help create stars?
Well, it's all perception is reality, right? So it's like they don't have stars over there. In whose eyes? In right. Tony's eyes, right? Like he's the booker, he's the promoter, he decides, you know what I mean? If you don't think that there's any more guys to poach that are worth promoting, then maybe go ahead and end the fucking partnership. You already got what you came for. And if, there's this whole thing where it's like, well, the ticket's already sold. I've heard people say that many times. Tickets are sold. Well, if the tickets are sold, then why the fuck does it matter if you push New Japan guys and give them a little bit of shine? I'm not saying like go overboard. I'm not saying have them beat all your guys or to a detriment to your business, but like, there's young stars in New Japan that we're trying to get over. You want to produce something that's fun, exciting, and all that. Use them, push them, put them on the show. But we're probably not getting any of that. You know what I mean? It's gonna.
Yeah, and also the timing with it coming like right after G1 doesn't help either.
Happens every year. That's just how it is.
No, every year it's before G1.
Oh, I thought it was always. Oh, I guess you're right. It is always before G1. Tony was a fan of New Japan when he came back to wrestling as a wrestling fan in like the mid 2000s. And, he likes those guys and he got most of them. That's it. Like,
yeah,
that's what it is. So, we did have some questions here. We kind of answer them, but I'll run through them real quick. So, M. Pregman says, M. Pregman Page says, how disrespectful are those 4 challengers AEW is setting up for Forbidden Door? Why doesn't New Japan just send Chase Owens as the challengers to Hangman in response?
Well, because Tony Khan's never going to fly for something like that, nor should he. But
I don't think that's equal either. I think like Chase Owens degrees lower than what they're doing here, but I get the sentiment.
Yeah. And we kind of already talked about the challengers.
Taguchi Mane says, and who does New Japan send as their pound for pound best for Kyle Fletcher to face at Forbidden Door? Could it be the one and only Funky Weapon?
I mean, Taguchi has been, the big X in a lot of spots, so maybe it's him.
Jeremy, who do you want to see lose to Kyle Fletcher? That's the question you got to ask yourself.
It sounds like a good spot for Oiwa, probably.
Probably Oiwa, yeah.
Be a great match, but yeah, who's ever facing him, obviously losing. All right, then a couple other questions here, and then we'll wrap it up. Taguchi Mane says, with Daiki Nagai saying he's aiming for the best Super Junior next year, what are the odds we actually see him in the tournament? Or are we going to see him with Team Hiromu in the Super Junior Tag League this year?
He will probably wind up teaming with like Bushi in an even though he's not part of the company, he'll come back as an outsider and they will team together. No, I don't know. That would be cool. I don't know how likely it is that you see him in the Super Junior Tag League, but I think it would be cool for him to be in Super Junior Sexier.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, Junior Tag League might be too soon, but yeah, Super Juniors would be great. And then 2 questions from Death Triangle 720. He says, hypothetically, let's say Gabe is out longer than expected and he needs to drop the global title. Who do you think or want to win the title?
Tough question. You know, I think there could be an argument that hypothetically, let's say Takeshita doesn't win the world title and Takeshita doesn't win the G1, he might be a really good white belt champion, especially since I do have a little bit of concern about him being the world champion, considering all his other obligations at the same time contractually, you know, from a time perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But that might not be as big of a deal if he is just the white belt champion, which that's still a big prominent position, but it's not as, you know, you don't have to be around as much for that role. So that's something maybe. But I think like Uemura would be or even, not that I would love this idea, but Umino is also a possibility.
I think I would go with Drilla at this point.
Oh, wow. Bold.
Yeah, I mean, you got the War Dogs connection. You can say he's winning it for, you know, in honor of Gabe. And I think he really stepped up in G1. And I think there should be a reward for that and a push for that. And so, yeah, I would go with Drilla.
Aaron Wolf.
Oh. And let's see. There's another question. Do you think Callum Newman could be pulling a Devitt and make a change inside UE?
I don't know how that would be pulling a Devitt.
Yeah, he's not a junior.
Well, I guess it implies that he's making a change inside of United Empire, but it's like Prince Devitt, when he formed the Bullet Club, like that was from the ground up. It wasn't like a change it didn't exist.
Yeah.
Maybe he's referring more to like the Judgment Day when they ousted Big Cope. Changed it from the inside, took over.
Maybe.
Made Rhea the leader. Maybe that's what they're doing.
Maybe.
Who's to say?
Yeah, I mean, a heel turn, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I could care less about United Empire right now.
The United Empire is dead, dog.
Yeah.
Dead. All right. Well, we did it.
Yep. That's going to do it for the show. So next week, Fraser will be joining us, Fraser Japan, to review the conclusion of G1 Climax 35. So remember, if you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, sign up at patreon.com/KIStrongstyle and make sure you leave a donation by visiting socialbooks.com/donate. Click on the donate button on the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media on X and Blue Sky. Follow us at KIStrongstyle, at socialbooks, at Jeremy Donovan, and at YB_Josh and Liger. On Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/socialsuplex. On Reddit, on the Pro Black Guy, just Keeping It Strong Style. On YouTube, we are at Social Suplex. Join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. You can email me, Jeremy, at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, it's by Rick Latta and James Boyd. All things Elite with Floyd and Austin. Imps, AEW adventures to come. With them, Gates Matthew Mayer, Wrestling Art, Chris Slings, Tone Talk with Ali and Leah, and the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.